sort of add the social media once you have a track record, right? And I think that's the problem with a lot of these younger agents these days.
Being a new agent right now is really tough.
We should have like a thing that pops up with therapy. Like John's therapy.
We need it.
Well, it's like,
I'd say like creative nature down. Did you fart? It smells something weird.
So you guys have a creative person on staff?
We have 3 videographers, we have 2 editors, and then we have a VA that will chop everything up and just disperse them daily.
What?
How are you preparing the agents on your team for the market change that's about to happen, or that is happening right now?
I like to think I've been preparing them, for a while, because we obviously knew this was coming. This is no secret. So I'd like to think that I've been preparing them, but more than anything, just giving them more love, right? Being at the office more meetings, more opportunities to succeed. So between the coaching, the daily meetings that we have, all the different tools, RedX and Geodata and, Mojo Dialer, whatever it is, mailers, social media, full-time video team, they have everything they could possibly need to succeed. Do I have any tequila? I'm going to take a shot too.
World-class lessons from the real estate industry's top 1%, empowering agents to think bigger and do more to create life by design. Get access to exclusive interviews with top producing real estate professionals. Listen in as we talk about their journey in the business, best practices, and lessons learned. Hosted by KIRO, NASRALAH, and John Scipione.
I mean, one thing that we always say in our office is just action is better than perfection, right?
This is Light It Up with Lighthouse Residential.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Light It Up Podcast. We are super excited to have with us today Dan O'Neill out of Long Island, New York, where he's leading a team of over 30 agents. They are going to close over 300 transactions this year. Welcome back to the platform, Dan. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. It's an honor. Big fan. I love the studio setup.
Good, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're a busy man and you got a busy schedule, and we had to chase you down a little bit to get you on here, but it was fun, man.
Of course. Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited. Let's get into it.
And I'm glad I didn't reach out to Dan O'Nelly.
Oh my God.
Remember I was telling you about that? You're known in our office as Dan O'Nelly. He, the Irishman.
There's like 15 of them going around right now. It's actually impressive how many there are and how many people actually fall for it. I've been trying to hire these people that are making the fake accounts because they are incredibly engaging. They are aggressive. they have like 10,000 followers. Like I want them on my team. They block me.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the girls on our team, I think before we had met in person at that event in New Jersey, she's like, "Hey, Dan followed me. Check this out. I got Dan following me now." And I'm like, I looked at it closely. I'm like, "Hey, that says Dan O'Nelly." And she's like, "Oh shit." Yeah, so we had to let her down easy, but
what's her name? I'll follow her right now.
That was Caitlin. She had met you at the event that day, actually.
Got it.
So yeah, I think you guys are connected. She connected with the real Dan on there.
That's funny.
But thank you, man. We didn't know which version of you was going to show up today, so we're happy. We're happy we got the right one.
I mean, listen, I thought I was supposed to be in New Jersey. I was like, I almost had a panic attack thinking that you guys thought I was going to be in person today. So I'm glad that we got this worked out, and I'm glad that the real one showed up today. Imagine that, just some random person you've never seen before.
He's really fulfilling that scam. All right, cool. So we always like to jump in with these lightning round questions that have absolutely nothing to do with real estate. We just like to put you on the hot seat, and it is Friday, so we'll shake things up before the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
KIRO and I are going to take a shot. I don't know if you have any booze in front of you, but we didn't really prepare you, but we'll do it anyway. So we'll take one for you.
Salute.
I know. We really organized today. All right, let's hit it. So we'll jump into the lightning round.
All right, let's do it.
Let's see. Name a song that would be on your sex playlist.
Anything by Bad Bunny.
KIRO's been to the Bad Bunny. Tell him about your Bad Bunny experience.
Yeah, so it was in what
Citi Field, I think?
No, Yankees.
Oh, you went to that show at the end of August? Hell yeah.
Yeah, that one was insane because it was just very ratchet, and then we were all the way at the top of the nosebleeds, and once he came out, everybody's dancing and everybody's being Hispanic, and then
Being Hispanic.
everybody's having a good time, and then the whole stadium is shaking. So I started having a panic attack. I was like, I can't be here. This whole stadium was shaking, but it was an epic event. I love that guy.
Well, the chick he brought too was like, "Hey,
if she listens to this, I'm gonna be in trouble
you couldn't have got us any better seats."
She's the one that bought the seats.
Oh, well, then you should ask her.
Yeah, right.
That's
All right, next
awesome.
one on my side.
If you could fix one world problem, what would it be?
One world problem.
Serious question.
Yeah, that is. Jesus, we go from Bad Bunny nosebleeds to fixing. I would say world hunger.
World hunger for the win.
Yeah.
All right.
Is it a deal breaker if your partner can't cook? You have a girlfriend now?
Yes, I have a girlfriend,
That
and
lovely blonde girl I see on your Instagram.
yes, she's getting better at cooking.
Imagine you were like, "No, it's not her anymore." Sorry about
That's
that.
happened. Yeah, no, it's not a deal breaker. I like to cook, and Emily, my girlfriend, she is getting better at cooking.
And that for me is pancakes. Amazing.
She actually cooked like the last 3 nights in a row. So
3 nights in a row. Boom.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So tell me, if you were in a relationship, is it okay to keep any possessions from your ex?
well, I have a Burberry scarf from that. I don't want to speak too loud here, but I mean, I'm not gonna get rid of that, right? Like it's a Burberry
Yeah.
scarf. I never wear it. I think it looks terrible anyway, but like it's still a nice scarf, I guess, right?
He was wearing a Burberry tie, or like up until 10 minutes ago. So I'm glad.
Awesome.
I'm glad we. I was like, dude, take the fucking tie off.
Trying to stay out of trouble here, all right, gentlemen? Let's. Right?
All right. On that note, do you consider flirting cheating?
Well, what kind of flirting?
He answered that like an
Is
attorney.
this a real estate, or is this dating 101? This is like the worst person to ask. I think that we all have, like, as salespeople, I think we are all naturally flirtatious, right? That's a part of our
Yep.
DNA. I think there's definitely like a line of like flirting with the opposite sex, right? Like
Yep.
flirting with a girl, flirting with a guy, whatever you're into. So yeah, I wouldn't say that that's like physically cheating, but I do think that is inappropriate, and you should not do it. And I do not do it.
We don't even have to edit it. That's perfect.
Do I have any tequila? I'm going to take a shot too. This is what I got here. I got Kahlua. I don't know if you guys can see it. I got Kahlua.
There you go.
This is just for my office, and I got Cointreau. I've never taken a shot of just straight Cointreau before, but
Today's the day.
might be.
Let's see. We got 2 more questions for you here. What is one new thing you want to do next year, 2023?
One new thing I want to do is I want to buy 5 rental properties in Florida.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
I saw that you guys opened up an office in Sarasota, right?
Yes, sir.
Everybody seems to be moving to that area. I mean, what was it that drew you to Sarasota, and how's it going down there?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great area. I love the west coast of Florida. I actually innocently had an agent that is one of my partners, John Cariello. He's been one of my best friends since high school. We went to college together. We worked at the same business before real estate. He just had the idea one day where he's like, I'm sick of Long Island. I hate the cold weather. I want to move to Florida. And I wasn't going to just let him go and do it by himself. So I approached my company. They only have offices on Long Island. I asked them if they wanted to partner with us. Should I just go join another company? Like, what do we do here? And they were like, well, we'll support whatever you guys want. So that's kind of how it came to fruition, honestly. And
Good for you, man.
yeah, now we have the office in Sarasota. We're expanding over to the East Coast, and it's a great area. It's like beachy. It's a little bit younger. It's great, great golf, great restaurants. So it's like kind of best of both worlds, and it's like smack in the middle. So if you want to go drive to Naples, 45 minutes, you can. If you want to go down to Tampa, St. Pete, like there's just so many things you can do. So
it's so weird. I feel like I never heard about Sarasota up until the last like maybe 6 months, and then all of a sudden in the last 6 months it's been like, yeah, we're moving to Sarasota. Yeah, when we sell our house, we're moving to Sarasota. Like,
yeah,
I've heard it a lot lately.
What's the worst first date you've ever had?
I have a really funny first good date, like the most insane first date you probably ever heard of in your life, or do you want just like the typical bad one where like I brought a girl?
You can't start with that and not tell that story.
I think yeah.
All right, so when I first met my girlfriend, I lied to her and told her that I lived in Naples, Florida. I did not.
You didn't see that coming?
I also asked her where she would want to go, like one trip, dream trip, and she said Greece. don't remember any of this. Next morning, I wake up, don't even have her phone number, but I have 2 first-class tickets to Greece, for like a week later. Like a week later. Only way that I knew what her name is, it gets better. Only reason I knew what her name was because of the, Expedia Delta thing. So I text her, like, she ghosted me for 4 days. Can't blame her, right? That is such an insane thing to do. So she randomly, so think about it. I live in New York. She thinks I live in Florida. So she texts me like that following week and goes, hey, like, you want to get dinner tonight? I'm in town. So I'm like, I gotta cash in on my trip to Greece. Is $10,000 flight. So
You're like, actually, we're supposed to be in Santorini tomorrow.
Dude, I leave New York in my outfit like this. I fly down to Florida. I attempt to take her on a date, right? So now I literally just in my clothes. I didn't even bring anything. Just hopped on a plane just to take her to dinner. She stood me up. She didn't even show up to dinner.
Oh,
so
wow.
I just texted her and I was like, hey, by the way, I don't live in Florida. And like, so I tell her the truth. Long story short, I wound up seeing her the next day. And yeah.
Just bumping into her, or just you guys actually connected, or?
No, I missed my flight because I was so upset that she stood me up that I just went out by myself. And this is actually also how like the Florida stuff came to fruition. And I met a ton of people, so I had a great night, but I missed my flight. So then I went out the next night again, and I just, basically ran into her.
Wow.
Did Greece ever happen, or?
Not yet.
That's Emily, the current girlfriend?
Yeah, that's Emily.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
That's good. You ever hear the story of like how Grant Cardone met his wife, Elena?
Did he buy a ticket to Greece too?
I don't know if he bought a ticket to Greece, but it was some sort of crazy, like she shot him down like 3 times. He was doing some crazy shit, making like, crazy offers of, I don't know if it was Greece, but, and she said no to him a lot. Not that you were getting the no, but.
I mean, I kind of was, I guess.
I guess she stood you up. Yeah.
She did. She said that the dog who's sitting right next to me right now, Archie, she blamed him. She's like, oh, he's got stomach problems. He's throwing up. Like, that is the easiest excuse in the world.
That is an epic story. I'm going to change topics before John throws me under the bus.
No, go for it.
No. All right. So give us an idea of how you started in the industry, how old you were, how'd you get to where you are right now?
So I was in the restaurant business prior to, I was like 23 years old. I was really unhappy with it. I was working 100 hours a week. I was working for somebody else, and I was just like so burnt out. I think I worked like 27 days in a row, and I was working from like 10 a.m. I'm opening the restaurant. There was a nightclub, so sometimes if a bartender didn't show up, I was working until 4 a.m. It was just really, really bad. I was drinking a ton, and I was just like really unhappy, and I knew that I had more potential. I knew that I wanted to be my own boss. I just didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. So I figured, why not get my real estate license, see where it takes me. I had a friend of mine that was in the mortgage business. He was, kind of pushing me in that direction too. So long story short, just, went out and got my license. I saved up like 3 or 4 months worth of rent. And I just figured if I put 100 hours a week that I was into the restaurant, into my real estate career, I gotta like do pretty well, right? Like I gotta at least make ends meet. And I almost quit like 30 times my first year, but luckily I didn't. I stuck with it, and 4 years later, we're here.
So it's only been 4 years.
Yes, this is going to be February will be 5 years.
Good for you, man. That's great.
That's insane.
That's great. Isn't it funny how everybody like gets their license just to, like try to figure out the next step? They're like, fuck
Might
this
as well try
restaurant
everything.
thing. Like, I'll just get my license and jump into this crazy world. Like, we all knew somebody who made like way too much money on one deal, and you're just like, I'm not saying that was your reason, but it's just sort of like, wait a second, I could do this.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though. You do see a lot of people in the hospitality industry, right? The restaurant industry. Whether like we have a guy on our team who used to run a hotel. I think it's people who are just used to managing, wearing a lot of hats, managing, juggling a lot of things at once, and just those honestly are the types of people we look for our team.
I think the most successful people come from the hospitality industry because you're used to like making the connections, relationships. You're used to putting out the fires and the stress.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. Anytime somebody comes over from the restaurant business for me, I'm so excited because I know they're going to do well. And I wish I had like a better story. Like, oh, I always had this knack for real estate, or I always loved houses, right? I always had this like, no, it's not. Nobody. That ain't true, right? Like, no one's driving past a house like, oh, I want to get my real estate license. I really just truly wanted to be my own boss, and that was why I got my license.
Yeah, that's good. And in 4 years, so a lot of people don't see what happens in the back end. So within 4 years of the business, no one sees the prospecting, the door knocking, all of the effort that you did in the back end. What did you do to start? When did the social media kick in? And when did you know that there was something there that you were building?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, everyone just sees kind of like the fun that we have on social media and the videos, right? But if you're not doing the work, if you're not door knocking, prospecting, networking, cold calling, all of those things, educating yourself, then the social media is really for nothing. So really how I got started, and even before any of the social media, I was calling for sale by owners every day. I think my first 10 deals came from for sale by owners. I was door knocking in the freezing cold here in the dead of winter. I got my license in February. So you got to figure that's, I guess, February, March, pretty freaking cold here. I was door knocking every single day. I was networking. I used to go to a restaurant in my town that I know is like one of the most expensive steakhouses, right? Like the bougiest place. And I would go and I would just order. I had no money. I would go and order a club soda. So it looked like I was drinking like a Grey Goose. And I befriended the bartender. So she would give me like little pub chips and I would just tip her like $20, right? Kind of the same thing as if I spent $100. So I would tip her $20 and then I would leave and go get McDonald's afterwards because I was starving. But what I would do is I would sit there and I would recognize people that I saw on Facebook that were in real estate that were doing really well or that were like big figures, or I would just sit there and listen, right? Everyone's talking about stocks and, real estate, sell, buy. So I would just go up and introduce myself like an absolute lunatic. But what that did is I started to meet some of the power players and they started plugging me in and they started, giving me more leads and inviting me to more networking events. And between that, the for sale by owners, the cold calls, it all started to kind of, culminate into some serious business. But I almost quit 10 times in my first year. So even after that.
That's good, man. I mean, tell us a little bit more about most people very few people rarely get their license and then just sort of try to dive into like FSBOs and like, are you in coaching now? Were you in coaching then? Like, where did this whole idea of just attacking the FSBO?
So I am in coaching now. So we're with Tom Ferry. Our coach is Jeff Mays. But then it was literally just like I joined a brokerage and they were, you gotta get leads, right? You gotta do something. You're not getting any Zillow. I think we had Op City at the time, which are like, they weren't the best leads. So what else do you do, right? You got to prospect, you got to cold call. So what I did was, I could probably get in trouble for this. I've told this story many times. I would bring my dad with me as like a buyer.
A preview?
Yeah. So I would tell the people that I'm bringing a buyer, and it was my father. And what wound up happening is, so he owns a landscape masonry company. So it says like O'Neill and Willishar on the side of his truck. So I would tell him to park 2 miles down. I'll pick him up, bring him with me. It finally got to a point, and I probably got like 3 or 4 listings like this, But
Dude, I've done it with my good buddy Leva.
Finally gets to a point where like I'm on an appointment, and my dad showed up late, so he parked right outside. So the guy looks at my business card, looks out the window, and is like, "The jig's up. I know you guys are." That guy gave me the listing, and I probably have done 60 deals from him since. He respected the hustle and like my drive so much that he's in law enforcement. He gave me his whole entire precinct.
Wow. Isn't that great?
You'd assume that he would not want to.
He's like, listen, man, I'll give you the listing, but if your dad doesn't fucking buy this house,
dude, my dad's sitting there like turning the faucets on, like, oh, what kind of quartz is this? I'm like giving him
good? Your dad's like, ready, action,
dude. If my dad, if I have a kid one day, like that's the kind of shit I'm gonna do for my kid. Like, what do you want me to do? Fake previews? I'm in it. Let's go. But that's
some credit.
No, we've all been there though. Like, obviously, we're making a joke of it, but when you're, I think, new and like I didn't really have like a mentor in the business. I wasn't in a brokerage where I had a team leader. I had a broker and he could answer questions for me, but he wasn't sort of giving me any guidance, and maybe I wasn't asking for it. But I mean, when I was attacking the FSBOs, like I was just looking on YouTube, and who were we talking about last week? Kevin Ward. Yeah, Kevin Ward, the YouTube FSBO maniac, would be like telling me what to say, and I would say what he says, and then I get there and I'd black out and I just make up some crazy shit about like having somebody that, all the things you're not supposed to say, like, yeah, of course I have a buyer for your house. And then, you go down this road but I think the important thing to take away from that is just that instead of just sitting there waiting for business, you were out there pounding the pavement.
Did the exact same thing that you did. Like I just fucking, I cursed. I just completely faked it. And like, that's one thing that's lacking in my opinion now of a lot of the agents that have gotten their license over the last couple of years. It's been pretty easy. Like you're getting the inbound Zillow leads, you're getting the realtor.com leads, social media, all this stuff. But if you're not attacking the phones, or if you're afraid to make that cold call or afraid to go on that appointment, and even if you embarrass yourself, right? Like how many times did you go on a for sale by owner appointment? You said something stupid, you probably embarrassed yourself, but it's all those reps, right? Like getting the phone, someone slams the phone on you, right? Or slams your fingers in their door. It's getting all of those reps and that experience and the practice gives you the confidence to do it.
Yeah,
Totally.
There's a book called Rejection Proof that talks about that, and it's insane because it's like the more you go through that, you don't feel any of that anymore, and it becomes more. When you know your metrics. We were talking with the agents the other day about this. The pain period in real estate is not knowing what you need to do to get the outcomes you're looking for, and then as soon as you are able to track the metrics and you can duplicate it, replicate it, that's where it becomes fun because you're like, oh no, well that no just made me some money. Where's the yes? So you just keep going on and on from that, which is great.
Well, I love what you just said is because I think a lot of people may follow you on Instagram or see what you're doing with Broke Agent, Broke Media, but I think what they don't see is maybe how you got started, right? Like pounding the pavement, door knocking for sale by owners, and I think to touch upon what you said a couple minutes ago was, the social media and all that stuff is fun, and it's a good way I think to sort of break, like there's so much tension in our business, right? It allows us to add fun and like humor to everything, all the crazy shit that we deal with every day. But you sort of add the social media once you have a track record, right? And I think that's the problem with a lot of these younger agents these days. They go on and they follow Dan O'Neill and they're like, oh shit, this guy makes funny videos and he gets a listing and then he's like making a funny video on their front lawn and like that's what I need to do to like get more business. But what they don't see is what you've been doing for the last 4 years to build that track record.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
and the funny videos for me in the beginning like kind of happened naturally. It was just like, hey, why am I going to give Dan, like I said this in Jersey, why am I going to give Dan O'Neill the listing who's brand new, like wearing a $20 suit, doesn't even know what the hell he's doing versus, one of the top agents in my area doing 300, 400 deals a year. And I just came up with these videos and said, I'll get as many eyeballs as I possibly can on your house. That's how the videos, came to fruition. Now, as we get into this correcting market, I think the funny videos and the skits, I wouldn't even focus on them. I wouldn't even be doing them. If I didn't already have like this kind of like brand of doing them, I would ditch them completely. Because I truly think now is a good time to like be the educator, be talking about interest rates, like all these different things, as opposed to like I've dressed up as Batman before on somebody's front lawn. That it is
saw it, man.
So cringe. I can't even believe it. I've jumped in people's pool before. It makes me cringe, but it worked at the time.
Yeah. Well, there's a two-part benefit to it, right? You have agent attraction working for you, and then you also have some clients that go in there. The educational part will help with the clients, but ultimately that agent attraction will still keep coming with that kind of message that's being sent. And as we're talking about social media, when did you start being very intentional with that to grow your presence and attention? Was that in the beginning as well, or?
Yeah, so the beginning was really just trying to like get a listing sold. It was like a for sale by owner or like an expired, and I just made this like brutal video looking back on it. But I noticed like people were saying that they came to the house because of it, or somebody at my like local bagel stores was like, hey, I saw that video, that's pretty nice. Scotts Cove, a nice house. I'm like, how the hell did you see that? So then I started like really thinking about it and really like actually focusing and spending more time on it. And then it evolved into kind of like the humor. I noticed that nobody was really making interesting or funny, listing videos. It was a way for me to be creative, and it was a way for me to like vent out some of the stress because this business can really eat you up if you let it. So it became my creative outlet. It became a way to market the properties. It became a recruitment tool, and people think I spend so much time on it. The videos that we do, we probably spend like 20 or 30 minutes total, and we just put it out there. And I put one out last night that I thought I was going to do like really well, be very funny. Nothing. Got like 200 comments. There are other times where I put out the worst video of all time and it'll do numbers and blow up. So I eventually just stopped caring about what other people thought and just really started doubling down on it.
Yeah,
That's good.
It's Katie Day was talking to us about as we were talking about before. You probably know her through the Tom Ferry World?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of her videos are a little bit more educational, right, for buyers or sellers.
Right.
Do you have, when you're putting out the videos that you've put out, would you say that you have a specific focus? I know you said it started with like, getting more eyeballs on a specific property, but some of the fun ones that you do, is it for agent attraction? Is it for just like name recognition? What's the focus these days?
I think like you constantly have to be evolving. So the same content that I was putting out in 2021 wasn't the same as 2022. We were doing like 3 or 4 minute long listing videos. that shrunk down to like 2 minutes. Then it was 60 seconds. And now it's like you have 30 seconds or less and people click off. So you have to be constantly evolving and changing things around. Now my main focus is just is entertainment or edutainment, right? So like I've been making these videos where it's self-deprecating. Like I'm making fun of myself cold calling. I'm making fun of myself, my inner monologue of door knocking, right? But if you read the caption, it's kind of like educational. Like, you know, we all have the same excuses in our head. You can't listen to them. You got to ignore them. Or when you're cold calling, don't just make cold calls and not have any sort of plan or a script or have ever practiced before. You can't expect to succeed. So now the videos that I'm doing are a little bit like self-deprecating, but also entertaining and educational. So who knows where that'll be in 6 months, if Instagram will even be a place to hold videos. It might be pictures again, right? Only. So it's just constantly evolving.
Yeah.
One thing that you said on the Bradley podcast, in your podcast, really, where you were talking about the age being, or it might not even be the age, it was
Thank you
being
for
taken
listening.
seriously by, of course, no worries. Where you were saying that it was either age or people not taking seriously during the appointments for high dollar. What was the insecurity you said?
What was the question you were trying to ask him?
No, well, Dan knows what I'm talking about because I watched the podcast. Did you?
I appreciate
I
that.
did. I think you were
got
saying
you,
that
bro.
like sometimes you felt like you might lose a listing because of you were younger or something.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was being young in the business, but it was also not being taken
You
serious.
see how he
right?
kills
Like,
my shit all the time.
That's so funny.
Come on.
No, listen, you got to chirp each other, right? It's how you guys know your
Yeah.
friends. But it was both. It was like not being taken serious, but also like being young in the business or young just in general. And I just had to get over that like really quick. And how I got over that was by being educated, by being confident, listening to all those YouTube videos, listening to other people speak, podcasts. And I would basically just take what other people said and I would just say it myself, right? Like I would take what Tom Ferry said on his podcast. I would go on a listing appointment and I would say it, right? And I just practiced and practiced and practiced so much because I have a sports background. So for me, like you got to practice. Sometimes you even have to record yourself. I love golf. If you look to my phone, my camera roll, I have videos like of myself golfing like an absolute lunatic. But it's because like you got to watch, you got to practice, and you got to record yourself. So
So you can make certain changes in the future.
yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
Well, it's the practice too. So it's like what you don't see on, like, I know in some of your stories, you're like in events, you're missing out on certain things to take a coaching call, like you're making sacrifices for that. So the commitment there to develop and grow is there. So you're obviously coachable to that extent. And just to elaborate a little bit more on how you got over that insecurity, because a lot of people who are early on in the business are experiencing that. Like I personally went through that. I don't know if you went through that as well too. But knowing what to say and how to say it is like literally the only thing that you need to do, because the insecurity comes from just feeling inadequate to be able to deliver the message that they want you to deliver.
I love that.
Well, I think there's a girl on our team. She's 19 years old.
She's a beast.
She's probably 5'1".
5 foot nothing.
On the phone, she's a total beast. Such a driver. I mean, she can like really deliver a great, prospecting call. Sets appointments with ease. But then sometimes when she goes on the appointment, she's like, oh shit, I feel like they look like she's got such a baby face that sometimes when they're sitting at the table, they're like, honestly, how old are you? How long have you been doing this? And I think that's where she gets a little bit insecure. And I know there was that seller recently who like Googled her and saw that she was in college or some shit.
That was the creepy part.
But what's funny is on the phone, she delivers so well.
Yeah.
And in person, she really delivers well too, as long as they don't get into her head.
Yeah.
So
First year in the business, she'll break over 100 grand. Knock on
Damn,
wood.
knock on wood. That's incredible. And I mean, if she's doing that at 19, like I wish I got my license at 19. And if she's good over the phone, we all have our insecurities, whether it's you're young, you're in college, you don't have the sales, whether it's I have an eczema outbreak right here that I can't stop looking at. We all have our insecurities, right? But learning how to overcome them, and it doesn't matter if she's 19 or if she's 45 years old. Is she going to be able to sell that house for top dollar? Yes. Does she have the best team surrounding her? Yes. So all these different things, her age shouldn't get in her head. What's her
Here's
name?
the best part. Ava.
Ava, do not let your age get in your head. You are the best at what you do.
I got her a fake engagement ring to try to sneak her into a Vegas pool party. That shit blew up in our face real fast. But before we get sidetracked, we went on to at part of her listing certification course, took her on an appointment. She was leading the appointment. She knew everything of what to say when she was sitting at the table, but we never practiced anything before that. So imagine a beautiful young girl, like in basically like a very quiet position. She was just standing there. And the guy's like, let me show you around. She's like, She didn't open her mouth until she sat down, and then she took over. She was just like, well, thank you again for having me over. And I'm like, now you want to talk? And at the end, she was done. She was like, and here's the contract. And she stays quiet. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
So then,
But yeah,
it
dude,
was awesome.
I mean, yeah, she's been killing it, and she's our little prodigy.
Hell yeah.
So it's excited to see her learn. But it's funny, dude. I know you're a big Islanders fan, and I always grew up watching hockey, and I compare it to like a young rookie coming up like out of like the minors, and she's just fearless, right? Like she's like the player who like doesn't mind going into the corners, doesn't like never gotten a concussion yet, like she's never had like a Fizbo like kick her in the ass or throw her out like the back door, and like she hasn't gotten a lot of objections yet, so she's just fearless. She's like, what do you want me to say to this guy? I'll say whatever you want. Give me the script. I'll say it. Come on. And like, and meanwhile, like, there's other people in the office who've been doing this for 2-3 years. They're like, I'm not calling it Fizbo. It's just not going to happen.
You should sign her to a lifetime contract, because that is the person that you want, and that's the person that's going to succeed, especially in this market that we're heading towards.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say, we'll move
Skills,
on.
man. It's all about. It comes back to the skills.
Yeah.
She got a $90,000 price reduction like 3 days ago.
Wow.
She's like
On a $600,000 deal.
She's like, is that good? Is that
It's
good?
like, more?
We're like, yeah, that's
Okay, more.
you did really fucking good.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So now, question for you. So you're managing, you're leading basically a team of 30 agents. You have 10 in Florida. You have 20 here in New York. How is it being 27, 28 and leading and managing 30 people, not including staff?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough. I mean, it has its lessons. You know, like I'm constantly learning, constantly trying to better myself. That was really the main reason of me joining coaching and joining it at like the top level, because I wanted to learn from people who are doing things that I already am, so I can learn from their mistakes or I can learn from lessons that they've already been through, and I wouldn't have to go through it myself. So the last like 7 months, I would say I've really stepped up as a leader, you know, within my team, making sure that I'm there for my team, kind of stepping out of production a little bit myself to get everybody else where they need to be. And I mean, listen, you guys know being a team leader is a huge sacrifice. Like if I have, you just said 30 people, if I have 10 people that aren't doing well, like I can't sleep at night, you know, like that really takes its toll on me, because it's my fault. My name's on the team, right? Like there's something that I'm doing that isn't helping them or that isn't working. So it is tough. I mean, especially as I mature, I'm 28 years old, which I now feel like is old, but like I'm still maturing as a person myself, you know? So the fact that I have a lot of people relying on me for their families, for their husbands, their wives, their kids, it's a lot of pressure, and it could be a lot. I think the best thing to do is just always have like the best intentions, always be a good person no matter what, even when the camera's not on. Like the same way that I am on my socials, like same way that I was at the event in Jersey that we were all at, it's the same way I am right now. And I even have my vape right here too. So, you know, just always trying to do the right thing, whether or not you're taking it off the chin or not, is super important. But it is tough. Like I'm learning every single day for sure.
Yeah. What are some challenges that you went through recently? What are some things that you learned of how to address those issues?
So I think I scaled a little too fast without having like the necessary ops and people in place, because we all know how the business has been the last couple of years. So I tried to bring up one of the agents that were doing very, very well for me and create or make them a position that they were going to be the sales manager. I knew the risk going into it that if it didn't work out, if I had to fire them, the odds of them staying on the team were probably slim to none. That happened, came to fruition. I realized that a 40-hour-a-week sales manager can't be somebody that's also spending 40 hours a week on their actual production of their business. It didn't work out. I had to let them go. They then joined a competitor of mine. Can't blame them. And you know, so that happened. So one of the current issues that I have is scaling, and especially even to Florida, without having the necessary ops or the people to then help you out. It's a recipe for disaster. So I'm working on getting like the necessary people in place, whether it be a sales manager, recruiting, all these different things, and building out the systems and structures. So that way it doesn't matter if I'm on a flight to Florida and somebody has a deal issue, you have somebody to call. Don't call me for your business cards. You call this person. You mentioned, you know, VAs. I've hired out as many VAs as I could possibly bring on for some of the ops and the admin work and social media and those things. So just scaling and bringing on the right people, so that way you could do what you're best at and use your highest and best use of time.
Yeah. What would you say these days is your highest and best use of time?
It's a really good question. Highest and best use of my time is helping the agents on my team and also bringing in leads for them. So whether it's social media, whether it's Zillow, whether it's, me calling a for sale by owner myself and then bringing you on the appointment, giving you the listing, that's my highest and best use of time.
Yeah. It's tough, like that's honestly, sometimes again, these turn into therapy sessions because we start, talking about.
We should have like a thing that pops up with therapy. With John's therapy.
We need it.
Well, it's like, some of the same struggles you're having are the same struggles we're having. I thought overnight that I could transition from being like someone who takes 10 or 15 listings a month to recruiting 10 or 15 agents, and just all this, everything would fall into place. And it is a totally different leadership skills, totally different characteristics, character traits. And, it's not the same sort of qualities. And, it's obvious, but like we went from being, responsible for bringing in these listings to being responsible for the people to bring in the listings or the buyers. And it's a totally different world.
That's where I am. I'm going through the exact same thing right now. And it's interesting. Like you guys, we're literally dealing with the same issues.
Yeah.
So,
but it's when you were responsible for it, when I was responsible for it, you could kick yourself in the ass and say, all right, well, I wanted to party this weekend and go to Miami for a couple of days, but what I'm actually going to do is, put on my fucking, sneakers and start knocking on some doors in X neighborhood around this listing I have, because I got to pick up my game. But it's hard to, put that same idea into the people on your team when they're not necessarily putting up the numbers they should be putting up. So
yeah, I think that's going to be, I think that's a constant battle. I'm able to learn from like a Tom Toole in Philadelphia or Byron Lazine. Byron has the #1 team in Connecticut, but he lives in Naples, Florida, 12 months out of the year. So learning from how they've been able to do it and how they've been able to transition out of production and really get into that leadership role. But I'll be completely honest. I think I'm better. I'm a better salesperson and I'm a better recruiter. I'm a better lead generator than I am, I think, a coach or a mentor for some of the agents on my team. So now it's just a matter of, okay, well, if that's what I'm good at, then let me bring in somebody who is very good at sales leadership and training and coaching. So that way I could fill that void. And it's just being like self-aware and realizing like I'm probably better served conjuring up 10 listings a month than I am sitting there and running an accountability call every Tuesday. So,
yeah. I think the biggest thing is separating yourself, like realizing that no one in the team is going to be this thing the same way that you do. Like there's a lot of times where we'll have like heated debates and we'll be like, well, people don't think the same way you do, or people don't think the same way you do. And it's like, you have to kind of just meet people where they're at almost and see, what Lego pieces you need to build the castle that you're trying to build. And identifying that and not expecting them to be what they're not wanting to be for themselves, which is a big struggle.
I'm going to send a ricochet shot to somebody on my team right now, because that is a prime example. Not everybody's going to be you. Not everybody's going to have the same why as you, the same motivation. So whether it's kids or family or just wanting to be #1, I'm going to send a ricochet shot to somebody on my team because I want this kid to succeed. He's not even a kid. He's my age. I want him to succeed so badly. But I opened up my Instagram the last 3 days. Today he's with the Nelk boys drinking, Happy Dads at a bar. It's Friday at, noon. And the kid, he's out. He's day drinking. Yesterday, he's with his girlfriend or whoever he is at like the wineries, and then the day before that, he's doing the same thing. That's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 3 days during the week. He's just out drinking beers.
Yeah,
that is, in my opinion, diabolical. You're not going to succeed that way, and especially going into 2023, you got to put in at least like 10% more open houses, 10% more cold calls, 10% more networking, 10% everything. You can't be 3 days, middle of the week, not even vacation, just like drinking beers in our hometown. Can't do it.
Yeah. It's tough. I heard somebody say recently, if you think that your market's down 20% or if you think it's down 10%, that's the same percentage you got to put in extra, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think you're down 10%, you got to put in the extra 10%, like you said. Yeah. And just to do, what you're I guess what you did last year.
And having like a tough conversation with your spouse or with your family, with your friends. When I first got my license, I disappeared from my friends for like a year and a half. Like I didn't drink, I didn't go out. And I told them all, like, I'm building my business. Like if you guys are going to be mad at me, then you're really not my friends. And they eventually got over it. But it's the same thing now, having that conversation with your spouse, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do 3 date nights a week. I'm not going to be able to go to Miami on vacation, to Art Basel, right? Like I got to spend another extra hour at the office every day. I have to wake up earlier and get to the office every day. It's going to get a little bit tough because this is my 2-year plan. and we're about to really be going through it. It's not the same market that we have been used to the last 3 years. So
Yeah.
How are you preparing the agents on your team for the market change that's about to happen, or that is happening right now?
I like to think I've been preparing them, for a while, because we obviously knew this was coming. This is no secret. So I'd like to think that I've been preparing them. But more than anything, just giving them more love, right? Being at the office more meetings, more opportunities to succeed. So between the coaching, the daily meetings that we have, all the different tools, RedX and Geodata and, Mojo Dialer, whatever it is, mailers, social media, full-time video team, they have everything they could possibly need to succeed. So just providing them with the tools and sometimes even the scripts or the leads, right? All those things. But I like to think that I've been preparing them for some time because this shouldn't have come as a surprise.
Yeah.
Are most of the people on your team agents, that came over from another office, or are they, agents who are new to the industry? What have you had more success with?
I'd say half and half. Being a new agent right now is really tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough, especially if you're not on a team, especially if you're not with a broker or a mentor that can really help you or provide leads for you. So I would say half and half. A lot of them either came to us maybe a deal or two in, and then they just exploded their business. Some of them were brand new. They did 15, 20 deals last year, which is great. Some came from another company where maybe they did 20 deals and we were able to get them to do 60. So I would say about half and half.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. So with the market changing and everything, everybody's going crazy about the rates and whatnot, and you have a good, I would say, a skill of being able to network with a lot of the top people in the industry, like Tom and everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
What is your 2-year plan consist of essentially?
And like, you got to be the more specific. I got.
So
I can get down to like what kind of suit I want to be wearing.
Not that. Like, what's the game plan? So is it you're doubling down on X activities, you're canceling this? Like, for instance, for us, we canceled out a bunch of different expenses that we didn't need, right? And just like focusing back on the basics. And it's going to be a lot of like just expireds for sale by owners, probates, stuff like that, and just trying to go heavy for sellers more than anything else. Do you guys have a similar 2-year plan, or what's your 2-year plan look like?
Yeah, I think as far as like getting rid of some things, for me personally, it's overextending myself. So whereas in the very beginning, networking was like the best thing, and I would do it 7 nights a week. Now I think pulling back a little bit because I have networked and I've met everybody as far as business and other agent goes, pulling back and not spending the time 6 hours a week networking, but spending it doing a deep dive in business, one-on-ones with my team, whatever it might be. So cutting back on some of that. And my 2-year plan, really, I mean, I want to have the number one team down in Florida. I want to continue to have the number one team here on Long Island. And I want to continue to be able to help people more than anything. So whether you're an agent, whether you're not even in the business, I want to be able to keep inspiring, keep motivating, and just keep spreading positivity and have the number one teams. Don't get me wrong. It's financially driven as well. I want to crush everybody in my marketplace for sure.
Nice. Would you say it's easier to do? Would you say it's easier?
I just wrote that timestamp down. I'm like, that's a real worthy clip right there.
But the problem is they're going to edit this, so that's going to be a problem.
We'll be good.
All right. Would you say it's easier to do a deal in Florida or in New York?
I would say it's equally as difficult, but I would say New York is an attorney state. So New York, there's just so much that can go wrong in New York. Florida, they're like, okay, you're buying it for $500,000. You got to close in literally 30 days or we're taking your money. Like no attorneys messing anything up. It's like the lenders know 30 days, no title company, that kind of stuff. But I would say it's equal, maybe easier in Florida.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Well, I find that we're having an easier time in Florida right now because we know the people that are buying with us. So they're all coming from New York or they're coming like from referrals. Whereas, doing a for sale by owner or an expired or a Zillow lead could be a little more challenging. So I think we're having a little bit of an easier time down in Florida. And, as people from the Northeast, we speak a mile a minute. We're savages, right? We work super, super hard. Florida's a little bit laid back. People are going to showings and flip-flops and, I'll call you back on Saturday. Like, Saturday? I want a showing in 20 minutes. So we have that kind of hustle. So maybe it is easier down there.
Tell me a little bit more. You were saying that you're talking about some of the things that you provide for the agents on your team. I think you were talking about a full-time creative position. Is that what you referenced?
Yes.
So you guys have a creative person on staff?
Mm-hmm. So we have 3 videographers, We have 2 editors, and then we have a VA that will chop everything up and just disperse them daily.
That's cool. So are they focusing on listing sort of content or social content? Like if somebody, like I'm just thinking about that from an agent attraction perspective. Is that something that you pitch to new agents? Like, hey, maybe not new agents, but agents that want to join the team. Hey, if you join our team, you have access to our creative department.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess from like a recruitment standpoint, people don't realize how expensive video can be. I mean, you guys are at a podcast studio right now. I'm sure it's not free. So for us, it's like, okay, well, you know, how many videos do you do a month? How many videos do you do a year? Okay, well, let's say you do 4 videos a month. Well, each video probably costs you $500, especially over here. So that's, I don't know, $2,000. So now imagine instead of doing 4 videos, you did 20 videos and it was $0 for you.
Right.
Makes sense. And the video is high quality. It's trending topics, right? Like they're also helping provide content. They're helping provide ideas for some of the team. It could be listings. It could just be regular, you know, quick trending reels. You could film something yourself. You could be in Mexico and film something and then send it to them. They'll edit it for you. Super nice. So yeah, that's where the recruitment comes in.
So they can do real estate photography, videography, and like just, you know,
everything.
Stuff for Instagram, like in a studio type atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
That's good. That's something we're toying with right now too. We want to actually build out our own studio, maybe even collaborate with these guys, but just be able to offer agents, you know, that, you know, access to that. Just because I think it is important to sort of mix that in. But like we said before, once you've got a few deals under your belt and have a track record that justifies it.
Yeah, with the market changing, the aggressive nature needs to come out more than anything else.
Yeah,
I'd say like creative nature down. Did you fart? I smell something weird. The aggressive nature needs. It just hit me right in my nose.
Jesus Christ.
There was the creative nature needs to come down, and the aggressive nature needs to come up more than anything else right now, specifically, just because of when you look at what's going on, everybody's pure panic. And a lot of times sellers think, like we were going over this with some of the agents that make calls, and they were saying that they're calling sellers and they're getting objections of the interest rates are too high, not right now. And then they were like, yeah, we can't get any deals or leads because it's they're saying the interest rates are too high. And I'm like, okay, so interest rates affect who? Buyers or sellers? And they're like, buyers. I'm like, okay, great. So, you know, why does the seller care about that? Maybe the concern is that they don't think they can get the same amount of money. So it's like going back to the basics of developing those skills of asking like, hey, well, if you were able to get what you wanted for the property, would you still sell it? And those kind of issues need to become, you know, front, or that aggressive nature needs to come out more.
I think it's, you know, we grew up in the Mike Ferry platform, and I know you've got a lot of coaching with Tom. You know, they both come from the same household, of course, and the same, literally the same household and same school of thought. And you know, we work with a lot of Tom Ferry agents, and you know, I think it comes back to what we say in our office all the time is the agent who asks the better questions, that digs a little bit deeper, you know, that hangs up the phone knowing a hell of a lot more than, you know, the agent who would call them an hour earlier is the one who's going to get the deal, right? So it all comes down to asking better questions. And in this atmosphere right now with interest rates the way that they are, you know, you just have to go back to the basics and work on those skills. That's why we got the agents on our team literally just role-playing scripts, handling objections, and you know, for newer people in the industry, they're like, shit, is this like, you know, is this prison? Is this like, like, you know, I didn't realize that when I became an agent, like I had to do all this stuff, and we're just, you know, trying to make them aware of like, hey, it sucks, but like you said before, put in the reps, and you will certainly come out on top.
Yeah. It's not as easy as some of us may make it look. That is for sure. And it's also like operating with numbers and stats, right? So that person that says, I don't want to list my house because of interest rates. Well, here's our local market report, right? The number of transactions are down 20%. Mortgage applications are down maybe 90%, which is bullshit anyway. But actually, inventory is down also 5%, and prices are up 5%. So why wouldn't you want to sell, right? Here are the numbers right here. This is actually Eric, the broke agent, Simon's wedding invitation. This is not a coaster. But, right, so like operating with numbers and stats and objectively being able to show that to them, and, you know, practicing too. Like if the first time you're practicing on something is in front of a client, it might not be the best. I have everybody role playing like that exact, you know, objection right there. Or, hey, like I don't want to buy right now because interest rates are too high. Okay, well, let's go get coffee. Let's do a Zoom, or let's meet at the office and let's go over the pros and cons of if you buy right now with the current interest rate, or if you waited out 6 months, right? Like what are the pros and cons of that? But at the very least, let's have a conversation. Let's sit down. And the more conversations you have, the more people you meet, the more deals you do.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
And it's funny. We were at a conference recently, and these two different people were on the stage. The first guy goes up there and he was telling people he did 50 deals last year just by sending text messages. And then he gets off the stage, and another dude goes up there and he's like, I have no idea. Like, he actually like silently
Basically
sort of
killed the
bashed
shit.
that dude and was like, dude, I have no idea how that dude did 50 deals. Like, you could sprinkle 50 deals in, by text messaging, but he's like, all roads lead back to the phone.
Yeah.
So, it would be great if we could do 100, 200, 300 deals by sending DMs and, doing some social media and all that and texting, but all roads lead back to the phone and just getting in front of more people and asking better questions. So,
You know what I think too? And I've been like, this has been on my mind for a while. So maybe I'm going to clip this for myself, but I think people see other people's successes, right? Like, quote unquote successes. And they rely too heavily on like, oh, well, this person he just did 50 deals a year from text messages, or he's on TikTok, he must be doing well. I think people look at that and they think that that's normal, or they think that that's what they need to do to succeed. But if you really like look up on Broker Metrics or Zillow, right, you really like do a little bit of research on that person, it's not real. And people get caught up listening to too many different, things and what you should be doing. What you really should be doing, and this is what I'm doing right now because I wasn't around in 08, 09. So I'm finding people that were, and I'm calling them up and I'm saying, hey, what were 5 things that you wish you did in 08, 09? Or what are 5 things you would tell yourself if you were that person back in 08, 09? And I'm literally just compiling, because I know that these people are doing business. Like I see it, right? And I know that they've been around for a long time. So that's what I'm doing. I'm avoiding the TikTok dances and, people that, say they're doing business that they're not. But it's sad because you see a new agent, they look to that and they're like, oh, this guy, girl must be doing a ton of business. They're not.
Yeah.
that's the problem with social, man. You could be anybody you want to be.
Yeah.
Well, you should be
We talked about
yourself.
last week.
Should be yourself unequivocally for better or for worse. As I have a vape and I have a bottle of Kahlua right next to me.
Perfect combination.
That's great.
One of our mentors who's actually from here, when I was talking to him about like comparison of people, like some people would be in the industry for a couple of years and they're killing it. I'm like, how are they doing that? And our mentor told me, he was just like, listen, there's what you see and there's what's true. You can either worry about them or you can worry about you. Like that's all it is. And I was like, that resonated so much with me when he said that.
Yeah.
And just to touch on what you guys were talking about, in that same event, there was a speaker not associated with real estate. He was like in the health industry. He was like, to me, sales is one thing. It's inspiring and educating the buyer to buy. So it's not trying to convince somebody to do anything. It's just educating and inspiring them to make the decision themselves, which is exactly what you were talking about with the stats and everything else from there. Which leads me to believe that Dan's an analytical.
Yeah.
What
Are
am
you
I?
numbers driven?
Oh,
An
analytical? No, I'm not at all. I am the least analytical person in the world, but
So you're expressive?
but I am objective, because with all this stuff going on, like the only way for me to really articulate it for you to believe, hey Dan, I feel like the market's not doing that great, or hey Dan, I feel like this. Well, I'm happy you feel that way, but here are the numbers. Here is the objective numbers. So that's just like my approach on it, because I can't make you feel any different by just talking to you. But if I talk to you and I show you Eric's invitation,
Wedding invitation. Yeah.
maybe we should cut out the first part when I talked about it. But
Yeah. Zoom in a little bit so you know how to get to that wedding.
All right.
It's no, I think that's exactly, you don't have to be analytical to answer that. It's if somebody's hitting you with, hey, I don't think a lot of homes are selling and I don't think the market's that strong right now. Holy shit, my phone is literally typing everything I'm saying. I respect where you're coming from. However, there are actually a number of homes selling each and every day. Like we were posting the pendings on our board every day. Mm-hmm. We were just showing our agents in our office, hey, we understand that you think the world's ending. We understand that you think that no one's doing business, but like, check this out. 50 homes went pending yesterday, right? So there are people doing business. Mm-hmm. So you just have to get yourself in between that buyer and the seller and figure out how to get yourself out there.
Yeah. And that's exactly that's the biggest thing. Everyone's all doom and gloom right now. And if you look at the numbers, are they down? Yes. Is it November and the holiday season? Yes. Are numbers usually down right now? Yes. So showing them, like you said, 50 houses went under contract yesterday. Well, why couldn't you be one of those, the agents representing that, right?
Yeah.
100%.
I don't think no matter what the time is, it's always going to be doom and gloom just because of media attracts doom and gloom. So you have, before the pandemic, we had short inventory levels and we were due for a correction because it was 60 straight months up. And then pandemic happened, the world's going to end. Then the pandemic, rate drop happened. Then it's like, there's no inventory and there's bidding wars. This is a big issue. After that monkey virus, and then it just goes on. There's always going to be something that's
There's always going to be something. That's how they make money.
Yeah, exactly that. Last question I'll give for you. What's one piece of advice that you wish you were given when you first started in the industry?
One piece of advice would be not to give up. Because I almost gave up like 100 times, and I wouldn't be talking to you guys. My hand would not be covered in Kahlua from grabbing that bottle right now. I would not be able to, I just bought my father a Range Rover, which I'm incredibly blessed to, been able to do. And I wouldn't be able to do any of these things.
He needs it for those previews, right?
Yeah, well, he was still driving the same truck that he was when we were doing the 4-7 owner stuff. So, but really, like I truly almost quit like 100 times, and I'm so thankful that I didn't, because I wouldn't be in the position that I am today. But I'm sure we're all going to go home. Like, we're all going to have issues, right? Instability is the new stability. You're going to have an agent call you. You're going to probably get frustrated. You're going to want to lose your mind. It's cool to have like the little 5 or 10 second, funeral or panic attack. But then you got to I'm smiling if you're not watching this, and you got to have positive energy.
Yeah. So what did you tell yourself when you were going through those, like the 10 times that you were giving up in your mind? What did you have to do to get yourself back into that groove?
It was honestly like I wasn't gonna be able to pay rent. Like I wasn't gonna be able to live, and I just kept telling myself, like, I'm not going back into the restaurant business. Not that there's anything wrong with the restaurant business, but I just knew how I was during that time, and I didn't even recognize myself. I was so unhealthy. Again, I was drinking a ton. I wasn't close with my family. So I just kept reminding myself of that position and how I didn't want to be there anymore. And whether it's putting up something on your, on your mirror in your bathroom, as silly or corny as that sounds, but constantly reminding yourself of like what you don't want to go back to. Like, if my card ever gets declined at Stop and Shop again, I don't want to ever go back to that. It's one of my whys.
You burned your boats.
Yeah. You burn your boats, and your back is up against the wall, and you don't really have another option, right?
Yep.
It's I think we all have to remind ourselves of that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You do a bunch of deals, you got a lot of money in your account, and that's why I always believe in like what Grant Cardone says. He's like, just put that money to work, get it out of your account immediately. Otherwise, you're going to get way too comfortable and put it to work. But awesome, man. Well, I think this has been wildly insightful. I think a lot of people would certainly like to see, your more vulnerable side. And honestly, for me, it's great to see somebody like you say, hey, listen, I got started doing some of the same crazy shit that we did, knocking on doors, and listen, I'm ready to get back into that today too, just because it's where the business is, right? Like, you're never too old for that, or never past that situation, or where you can't get back to the basics and the scripts and then the door knocking and all that. So just reminding our team of doing that every day too.
And falling back in love with it too. I used to love, I would love when I'd call 4-7 my owner, and it would work, right? And I'd be so excited. I'd get a listing, I'd come back to the office. I used to love it. Then obviously, I started getting my sphere of influence and Instagram leads and this, that, the other. So I got away from it. Now, I will call 4-7 owner right now and set up an appointment, and I will be the happiest person in the world. I'll go door knock with my team, and they get a listing or they get a lead from it. I love doing it again. So it's falling back in love with putting in that, at our level, putting in that work again, and even if it's for providing for your team.
Yeah. It's the chase and the hunt is what makes the whole thing worth it, and just constantly kind of. It's interesting because I studied NLP literally to pick up chicks in bars, and then I'm using it in sales to a certain extent, and I'm like, this is a perfect thing. Now I can get this is my outlet.
Dan, did you ever read the book The Game?
No, I have not. That's funny. Maybe I should.
Give me a quick rundown.
Well, when we go off screen, so
no, we can talk about it here. This is good shit.
On the recording. This is like
so. I'm going to give you the rundown. This is what the viewers want.
Yes.
This is the fans. No, these nerds in this they all live together or something, right?
These
nerdy dudes were able to pick up these Playboy Playmate type chicks by doing NLP, and they would go to the bars and just do all the neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
And like they had all these crazy scripts. And like one of their big things that I always remember about was like,
You guys best friend?
there's the best friend test, but then there was always the one where he's like, if you have 3 drinks with one girl in 3 different bars,
know
she
the 7
feels like she
locations.
knows you 3 times as well as she actually knows you, rather than having 3 drinks in one bar.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's best friend test, there's all those other crazy things. But dude, we'll be out in Vegas at like a real estate conference, and I'll go to the bathroom or something. I come back and he's doing the fucking best friend test, and I'm like, oh God, here we go again. These poor girls have no idea what they're in for. All right, you guys, if you enjoyed this podcast and want to keep tuning in every week, click the subscribe button below and turn on all those notifications. And let us know if you have any guests you want to see on the show, or if any questions for some upcoming guests. Certainly comment below. Thanks so much.